My question of the day is, when will institutionalized discrimination come to an end to those in the dreadlock community, to those of the naughty nature, especially in the Rastafari community? A lot of stories over the years of people being discriminated against because of their choice of hairstyle or their choice of culture. And quite frankly, I've had enough. And from time to time, I type in the word dreadlocks on Google and I click on the news results to see what sort of news articles are being released about dreadlocks. Let me tell you, 95% of the time, it's always about discrimination towards dreadlocks by institutions, by communities, by individuals, and this shit's gotta stop. Rastafarians call for an end to institutionalized discrimination. These are institutes that apply discrimination amongst their own people, much like systematic racism, but when it's amongst their own race, this now becomes institutionalized discrimination. Let me get into the story and tell you the article itself. Citing institutionalized discrimination by the state, the Coral Gardens Benevolent Society, a Rasta organization, is calling on the Jamaican government to immediately take steps to establish a written policy condemning all forms of prejudice against a minority group. The society, which has oversight responsibility for the surviving victims of the 1963 Coral Garden incidents, which saw a brutal government-sanctioned crackdown against Rastas, said they continue to experience grave acts of victimization and injustice over the past 5 years, which they believe warrants a government response. Speaking on behalf of the group, renowned Rasta elder Lewis Brown, who was central to the negotiation which culminated in the Andrew Holness-led government apologizing to the Rasta community in April 2017 for the 1963 Coral Gardens incident, said agents of the state are taking again discriminatory actions against them. Listing a series of recent incidents, the organization pointed to reports of the alleged forced trimming of a young man, dreadlocks, at the Gordontown police station. This incident is before the court as the youngster's parents are locked in a legal battle with the state. There was also a report of an alleged trimming of the precept's beard of an elderly Rastafarian at the Linstead Hospital in St. Catherine. His family is also seeking justice through the local courts. They also cited that the incident in which a young girl with dreadlocks hairstyle was reportedly turned away from a school in St. Catherine. Her parents sought justice through the legal system. However, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the school's principal. The latest incident that has drawn the ire of the Rasta community is the ongoing situation with Nzinga Candice King, who claimed her locks were trimmed by a policewoman at the Four Paths police station in Clarendon. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions subsequently ruled against criminal charges being brought against a police officer accused of doing the trimming. Brown also spoke to the need for government to craft a policy to put an end to the barring of locks wearing Rasta children from attending educational institutions. In 1963, the atrocities committed against Rasta were ordered and supported by the Jamaican state. Since then, the state has encouraged institutional discrimination against Rastafari by implementing policies that excluded Rasta adherents from educational services and employment. He argued that agents of the state in their bureaucratic positions continue to practice the exclusion based on their socialization and mental conditioning. This brings down to a simple fact that policies are needed. The Ministry of of Education should create a policy document that addresses the issue of discrimination in all schools, especially against Rastafari, including in relation to the wearing of dreadlocks, vaccinations, religious education, and holidays, said Brown. Such a policy would relieve principals and school boards of the burden of making arbitrary decisions. True say. The Rasta elder also wants to see a policy created by the Ministry of Labor to address employment discrimination at the workplace. Places of work should respect and stop discriminating against Rasta and allow members of the community to wear dreadlocks and beards at work. According to him, sanctions must be applied if there are breaches of the stated policies. Consequences. We recommend that the state strengthens the Office of the Public Defender with the authority to investigate complaints and bring charges against perpetrators. Cases should be tried in a court that is specifically convened for that purpose, something like the traffic courts, thus avoiding the crowded court system. It's ridiculous. So within this article, I'm learning and realizing that there is a ton of discrimination against Rastafari in Jamaica, where this nation should be the one upholding the integrity of their culture the most. For example, they vocate here to allow Rastas to not discriminate against in terms of their jobs, to allow them to wear their locks and their beards at work. Now, this is a very simple thing. The appearance of somebody's personification doesn't necessarily exclude them from their skill set that they can apply for the job. And on top of that, they're talking about vaccinations. A lot of religious exemptions do exist here in Canada regarding this, but the discrimination here is mind-blowing right now, and there's a huge line of division between people that are people that aren't. And this is insane to see that this is actually going worldwide. I hate to see it when the youth get affected by this as well. Little girl can't even go to school because she's wearing dreadlocks. She's excluded from being accepted into this educational system because of her hair. It reminds me a lot about the stories of people being excluded from the military. So there is discriminatory factors there. You might not be able to be accepted just for having locks. What comes to mind recently is the fact that women in a certain region are actually now allowed to wear dreadlocks and braids in the military. So it's a small step forward. Small step. But I've seen it in sports as well. Wrestlers having their locks chopped on the mats during a match by their white coaches. This is not anybody else's position to determine who wears locks and who doesn't. We shouldn't be having external forces tell us what to do with ourselves and one's body. It doesn't make any sense, and it blows my mind. Similarly, the whole cultural appropriation thing with dreadlocks as well, where we'll get black people discriminating against white people because they're wearing locks, saying that that's not part of your culture, you shouldn't be wearing that. In all reality, we're not the ones to be the judgmental ones in life. The only judgment that comes is from God, the higher power himself, Jah. So in all reality, all I can really say is for people to keep to themselves. Don't let your opinions and judgment cloud and discriminate against somebody else, because this now makes you the oppressor. And as a human race entirety, we're all being oppressed in one way or another. And it's not until this division falls that we're going to be able to unite and really bring down Babylon the way it was intended to fall.